So, okay, the first thing, does anyone have any doubts regarding like whatever we have done so far in development, like in HTML or CSS? Okay, no doubts. Okay, so the first thing I'll do is show you an animation. With last project, the last assignment was basically you had to create an animation and submit it, and this was what he submitted. So yeah, like you can see what he made, and it's really beautiful. And if you want the source, then you can check. I'll show this. And this was his code for HTML, and this was his CSS. Now he didn't use any JavaScript because it wasn't really required, but you get the point, right? You could make something like this by just using HTML and CSS. Now, obviously, his CSS was a bit complex if you don't understand it properly, but with a little bit of practice, you can get it. I've sent the link in the chat, and now I guess everyone can see that. Yeah, so this is a CSS code. So at any point, if I become inaudible, then just tell me. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's begin with the session. I've sent the link already, and this is our HTML file, and I've linked my CSS style sheet. Now I'll begin with CSS, right? So I guess everyone remembers this
Gaurav, your
selector.
voice
So
is
could
cutting
you
out.
just type in the chat like every to answer? Device then.
Yeah, I guess now you can continue better.
I'm audible, right?
Yeah, you are, but your voice is breaking a bit.
Okay, so if my voice is breaking, then I'll join from another device. Just a minute. Shivansh, could you let me in?
Yeah, now you.
Like, could someone reply?
Yeah, now you are audible.
Okay, so I'll be streaming from another device and I'll be speaking to another one. So does anyone remember this, what this stands for? If you remember, please type that in the chat. Okay, so it's the universal selector. Now, what's the purpose of a universal selector? It basically selects every element and whatever code we write, basically apply to each and every element. So we know that certain browsers have a user agent style sheet, right? So what the purpose of a user agent style sheet is that it basically tells the browser to. So let's say if I write something over here, then it will automatically apply those things here. Let's say I have this, and if I check this, you can see there's a certain amount of padding over here, right? But let's say I don't want that, so I can change it over here. And these presets are basically applied to each and every element. Now you can use a reset style sheet, but let's say you don't want to, then you can just use
Your voice is breaking a bit.
Gaurav, your voice is like really messed up.
like this. Okay, could you come again?
Your voice, Gaurav, your voice is like really cutting off randomly. It's like hyping.
Pritish, what problem are you facing?
Pritish is probably talking about the voice. It just keeps, cutting off.
Okay, I
It's
changed
pretty
my
bad
network
right
now.
now.
Yeah. Is it okay now? Because I just changed my network.
Yeah,
Yeah.
now it's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. So Pritish, are you having some problem with the syntax? Because I think you are new to the department, right? So I'll basically explain to the code now. Oh, okay. So this is my code. I use a universal selector and I apply these properties. Now, one thing you need to do is I suggest that each and every time you use the universal selector, you use this inside your code, which is box sizing border box. I think we had explained this in the prior videos, but what this basically does is, like, let's say I'm adding certain padding or margin, so it gets applied to the entire, it only gets applied to the content and not the outside model. So we have gone over the box model in the prior videos, so you could refer to those. I won't be going over box model because it's really a very broad topic. Now we will enter inside, let's, yeah, we'll enter inside pseudo selectors for classes and for elements. Now, this is what you would use for a pseudo element selector, not after, but basically this. You see this two colons, right? So this is what you would use for selecting a pseudo element. Now, now you could also use a single colon, but it's not recommended according to the WQC markup. And for pseudo class selectors, you would use this. You would use a single colon because see, there's a difference between the hierarchy, right? So to make it easier for web browsers to understand it, we have different symbols. Now it doesn't really create much of a difference, but it's recommended you do that. So let's say I'll create a link here over here right now. Let's see, I think google.com. And if I click this, okay, I have not really written the correct address, I think. So, yeah, so you can see when I click that link, I came over here. So for someone who is not able to understand this, href property basically defines where you want to go when you click this.
Redirects you.
Yeah, basically that. So okay. So you see by
What
default,
if it's an PDF file? What if the URL is a PDF file? Does it download it or does it redirect you to the like the browser version of that PDF file?
depend upon the system settings, I think, because because you see certain PDF files. If I open, let's say, if you bought a new laptop, I think it happens with new computers. Like if you bought them and just if you open a PDF and you don't have a PDF reader, it gets opened in the browser, right? Now
Yeah.
I think so. Just look into it. I have not really tried it, I think. So if you get the answer, then
I looked into it like a year ago, so I forgot about it. So I was asking.
okay, I have not looked into it per se, but if you get the answer, then you can share it with others in
Sure.
the server, right?
See, I guess
Um,
there is an inbuilt PDF reader, so it just loads the local file and it just display it. And if
Then
you're
how
talking
to
about,
force down? I had this question about a year ago. Then how to force download the file? Like I want to download it, not read it in the inbuilt reader. So
I mean,
what?
it should
Yeah.
download it automatically. I don't think it forces you in that. It doesn't do that for me. It's never done that for me. You can just always download it and then you can open as PDF in the browser or Adobe or whatever.
See,
In
you
case
can
you're ever
press.
having some, in case
There
you're
are
having this
like,
issue, yeah, Shivam, go ahead.
yeah. So there are some cases like where a few websites the PDF are uploaded on the server, and like there is some way to make it download, like make the PDF to be downloaded. But in some cases it gets served. You are right. Like I also have seen those PDFs. So in that case, you can either press Control P, so it will print it and you can save it locally, or Control S. I guess that will work.
Yeah, so should I continue?
Yeah. You
yeah,
continue. Let's change.
Okay, so let's say I want to sell this anchor tag. A stands for anchor tag, by the way. So let's say I want it to be red. So this is what it looks like right now. What I did was I changed the default blue color using this property and this value, and the text decoration, and basically remove that underline. Okay, and let's say I want to change the position. I'll put this inside a div. And I'll create a parent element selector class basically. Okay, don't go with display flex right now. We'll explain it in the later classes, but I'm doing this to center it. Okay. So you can see what I did there was I created certain properties. I used certain properties and that enabled me to center it over here. I'll add some background over here. This is looking very bad
so
right
to
now.
make it look like a button.
Yeah, I'm trying to make this anchor tag look like a button. Okay, so this is what it looks like right now. Now I can definitely change the font family. Okay, why am I using gram and not pixels? It's a good practice. So what does VH? Okay, VH stands for viewport height and VW stands for viewport width. So basically what it does is so you see this over here, this meta viewport, and this property basically is useful when you're creating response, this meta tag actually, and its attributes and their certain values are responsible for the responsive design. And let's say you don't want to define the size for every viewport. So what you could do is you could use this property. So what this does is, as your browser window changes in size, it changes the alignment of the content. So let's say if this was my phone, and even then it will apply this 100 viewport width and 100 viewport height property. And let's say if I had applied pixels, now I don't know what would be the width of my device. If I'm using a phone, it could be, let's say, 576 pixels, or it could also be 400 pixels. So it's not really clear, right? But using this basically LC browser to treat that entire viewport width using this property. You got the point, Pratish?
It changes according to the ratio. Does like just asking.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think I overcomplicated stuff. So this is what the button looks like right now. This is bad. I'll change the color.
What did you say, Rem?
Okay, who's asking this? Okay.
Asmitas.
Yeah, I'll basically send you a link. I think I have one. Everyone check your chat. Look, this is a very comprehensive guide as to what are EM and RAM and other measurement units for browsers. So like we have pixels, we have EM, and then we have RAM. So basically what RAM does is it sets the font size, or basically any size with respect to the font size for that element. Now, I don't want to go into it because it's a very complex topic on its own. It's not really complex, but it's more about practice. So as long as you don't practice, you will never really get it. So this is a button, and if I click it, I get redirected to this place. Now, let's say when I have now, you see when you there are certain buttons, right? When you hover them, you can see that how the button undergoes a change. So let's say you want to apply this to a button. So you can use a pseudo class selector, which goes by this. So I would do and I can change it over here. So you see how this button change, the background color changes when I hover this. Now I want this to go smoothly.
Excuse me, I missed out the part where you were talking about changing the background color where you were
Yeah, I'll
hovering
explain it
over the
again.
button.
I'll explain it again. 2 seconds. Okay, so I change this right now. So this is your button, and let's say when my cursor is over here, I want the background color to change. Now, how do I do that? You can use this pseudo class selector called semicolon hover, which will basically change it, right? So this over here. And see when this is included, and I bring my cursor over here, this changes. When my cursor is on the element, the background color changes as instructed over here.
I can make the transition faster, right?
Yeah, see, the transition is not there at all by default. By default, it's like this. What I did was to make it appear smooth. I use these. There's also a shorthand for this, but I prefer using the full form because it's generally easier to explain it that way. And if you want it to be faster, let's say I use 0.25 seconds. So something like this. Hey, I think this looks better. Now let's say
Yeah.
I click on this and I come over here. Now I come back and let's say I want the background color to change. Let's say this is for a form submission and you just want to create a prompt. Now you can also, now there's another property, another pseudo selector, which goes by visible. Whenever you visit the link, it changes. Okay, how does Octave work? See, I'm hovering over the button, but okay, there's something broken about this. This is my button. When I hover over this, I get this background. Now for my active part, I have this piece of code, right? Yellow. Now when I click on this, then this yellow color appears. This is because when I'm clicking this, the element is getting activated. Does anyone have any questions? Because I know it appears very similar.
No.
Fine. So I guess this was it for the pseudo element selectors, and now I will go over to class. This is my body right now, and I'll add width and height. Why not? Yeah, this is my body right now, and let's say I want an image in the background, and I also want a filter, right? So I'll just make this a little transparent. Let's say I want an image in the background. Now, how do I do that? Let's go to Pixabay. Let's get an image. Yeah. So you can see this, right? Now I'll change certain properties. So this is what my background looks like right now. Someone is typing something. It's a question. Nitish, can you repeat your question? Oh, I was basically demonstrating the pseudo element selectors. But not okay. So basically, let's say you want to include a background image. Now, you don't want to create a separate element for this purpose, right? So what you could do is that you could use the pseudo element selectors. Now, there's something funny about pseudo element selectors. These are, I'll have to show you the video. You see, I didn't really write this over here, right? So when you include it, it gets included here automatically. Now you could also have another one like this and just save it and you can use it. You can see this, right? I didn't write hello over here. I wrote hello inside my CSS file. But why does this appear over here? This is because when I use this pseudo element selector and wrote content, what this basically does is it injects it inside my web page. Now, if I try to select it, you will see this, right? And just try selecting this. Like I can select this, right? I can do this, but I can't do the same for this one. This is because it's not really an element. It's a string over here, which I have injected using this property, content. That's why I cannot select it. Now I'll go over animation. So far, does anyone have any questions?
No.
Okay, now I'll remove this element. So this is a box over here. Now I'll go over animation, and I'll also pose a challenge today. I'll basically show an animation which I had created a few weeks ago, and then you people are required to replicate it. So I'll just give you a hint as to what I did, and then you need to use that. So again, I'll be using all the properties. I won't use the shorthand for animation so that no one has any problem understanding it later on. So let's say I want to set an animation name. Now, by the way, you can set any animation name. It's on you. So like just try to use a name which is understandable and is not out of context. So let's say I want this string to pulse. So I'll set it animation in pulse. Okay, now a couple of things. I think I didn't explain it over here. The Z index property is basically used for the stacking order of elements. Now Shivansh will go over this thing, but you will see over there why we use the Z index property. The background properties were used for that image. This basically includes the image. This sets the size. This sets the position to center. And why I use no repeat? You saw that these pictures were creating these checkered tiles, right? So I didn't want that to happen. I wanted a single image. That's why I used that. And inset is a shorthand for the position property, which again Shivansh will go over after I complete. So you can ask him at that time. Okay, so the animation name property basically allows you to create a name for that animation so that you can access it outside, and then you can create the code for that bit. The iteration count basically tells how many times you want that animation to get repeated. Then there's animation duration, like how long you want the animation to function. And then there's animation timing function. What this basically does is it tells whether you want the animation to proceed slowly or fast. So like use and out is basically first when it begins, it will be slow. In the midway, it will be fast, and while it's getting and as it approaches the end, it will again become slow. That's why we have this. Now, this is the syntax for creating an animation. Now you created this name property. Now this identifier must have the same name as the name you assigned to the animation. So this basically allows me to now deal with my animation. Now there are two ways of dealing with animations. You can use from to to, or you could also use it in the form of percentages. So yes, correct. So as you can see, this is not at all smooth. This is growing and then it's returning to its original position because it's on an infinite count. So what I could do is I could change this a little bit. So you can see this right now. Does anyone have any question with animations? Okay, I'll take that as a no. Now there are a couple of other properties. Okay, so this is the shorthand by the way. So like you can use this one if you want to save time. It's not in time, but you could just avoid writing extra lines of code. But I'll say that you stick to this method because it makes it easier for someone else to read your code. And basically, these words will explain this. Right. Okay, so we looked into name, duration, timing function. Can you link a documentation regarding all the possible attributes of prefix? Yes. Um, we have to write yes. Now, W3 Schools, as we had discussed earlier, is a very good resource for practicing web development or like any other form of development. You can also learn other languages like Python. One second. So you can see certain properties listed out over here, and they have explained everything in detail. So in case you are still a little unclear about what we discussed today, you can go to this website and you can check out their examples. It's a very good resource. Okay, so this one, animation delay. Let's say you want your animation to get triggered after a certain amount of delay. So it's you generally use this if you were creating buttons and like you're toggling between classes. Like let's say you are clicking on a button and then you have your navigation menu appear, and you want the effect to take after 5 or 6 seconds of you clicking the button. So then you'd use this property depending on whether you are using the animation at all. Iteration count has been discussed. Direction and fill mode. I suggest you people check it out on your own. Or actually, I could go over here. So animation fill mode, backwards, both front. Basically, what this does is it instructs. Let's say I am not in an infinite count and I only want my animation to take place once. Then I can use these properties to specify whether I want the animation to end at its final location or its original position. Okay, Arik will mark your present. That's not a problem. And direction will basically specify where you want it to go. Yeah. So let's say Normally it will go from top to bottom, but if you want to go from the bottom to top or something else like that, then you could use this. Yeah, you share my present, that's not an issue. So that's about animation. I'll be pausing my screen and then I'll be showing you an animation which we created a few weeks ago. Okay, so can everyone see this animation? This is basically a ring. That's why I demonstrated how you could create a ring and then you could change the sizes. Now your challenge is to create a web page and it has the single ring and then this background color could be anything. Actually, you could make this ring look a little more colorful. I was just going for the design. So yeah, you're free to choose any color. Now your challenge is to create this ring, and I don't really care about the timing or the size. You could change it depending upon what you feel looks good, and then you have to submit it. You'll upload the form link, and yeah, that's pretty much it on my part. And I think Shivansh will be taking it from here. Shivansh, I think you should take it. Yeah, that's basically because my internet is not very good, as you might know.
Okay, so yeah, that's basically so. mm, 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 mm. Okay, so today, first of all, we will be going over display property and the inline and block elements. So let's here I have a basic HTML file and I have linked the CSS file as well. And so let's start. So I'm making a div along with div. Okay, so now, oh, okay, let me do one thing. Give it an ID of parent div. So, okay, so I want its height to be 100 pixel and PG color as red and width as maybe 400 pixel. Okay, let me keep this. Okay, so let me give it a little bit of margin. Okay, so I have a simple div and there are nested divs, but currently we are not able to see that. Let me add styling to them. Okay, and we did the init child. So what it means is that inside of the div, whichever the first div, like the init child means init child, and then the one indicates the index. So the first div inside the div, so it will have background color as yellow. Then let me do one thing. We had 3 divs. Okay, 2 and 3, and let's change this to blue and this to pink. Okay, and let's add a little bit of margin, say 20 pixels. Okay, also let's have a little bit of padding. 20 pixel. Okay, so this is like currently all their position is static. So what static means is that this is the parent div. Then we have 3 three childrens. Okay, so okay, okay. So the first, like we have the first div, which is this one with yellow color, the second one with blue color, and the third one with pink color. So all three of them are in order. But suppose you want this blue div to be at top somewhere here, like sticking to the body, like top right corner of the body. So one way is that you can remove this div and move this outside of this parent element. But suppose you don't want to do that. Now you need to position the element to the top right of the body. So you can do that with the help of position absolute. Okay, and let's just
By the way, nth child is also a pseudo class selector. So if anyone has any doubt, then they can check on the internet, and it basically allows you to select that element. Yeah, that's it.
yeah, I guess we covered this in the last session. That's why I didn't talk much about it, because nth child is a whole other topic. But yeah, I guess if anyone wants, like, is not remembering what nth child is, so please tell me. I will go over it again. So currently it's placed top is okay. Let me do it left. Okay, so when you are saying position absolute, you need to define either top or bottom. Okay, so currently I've told that top should be 0. The other way can be, I can say bottom can be 0 if I want the div to be sticking at the bottom. Okay, now it's at bottom. So you can define either top or bottom and either left or right. So I just did the right one, but you can see that this is not sticking. So this is because the margin is set to 20 pixel. If I do margin as 0, now you can see it's sticking to the wall of the body. Okay. Now this is position absolute. So what happens in the position absolute is, see, you can see that this pink div is taking the place of this blue one. So what happens is that you can understand it in a way that this div is taken out of this parent element, like if it's a static element, and then like I will be going over it, but for now you can uh, think of it as this div is taken out of the parent div and placed at the non-static parent element, which is body, at top 0 and okay, let me comment this out. Top 0 and left 0. Okay. Oh, just a second. What happened? Oh, okay. So top 0 and left 0. Okay. And so I was okay. Now suppose you want this div to be placed like it's currently placed at the edges of the body, but you want it to be placed at the corner of this red div. So you can do it by uh, just a second. Yeah, you can do it by making this parent div as a non-static. So I told you that by default the position is static, but as soon as you okay, so there are the position can be static, can be relative, okay, absolute, relative, fixed, or sticky. Okay, so if the position of this parent div is anything else than static, means non-static, then this div with position absolute will place itself with respect to this parent element. Okay, so that's that. And so we are done with position absolute. Okay, then other position we have is position relative. Okay, what relative means is that uh,
We did go with static.
yeah, actually static is just the default one. Okay, so
Yeah,
if I
just
do
explain
this
that to
one,
them.
yeah,
It's a
if I
good thing
do,
to just show.
if I do it like static, you will see no change because by default it's static. So yeah, now all the divs are static. So yeah, I was talking about relative. Okay, so relative is like if you want to move the element with respect to its initial position, like but I mean initial position as the static position, which is by default. So if I don't declare the position, now you can see it's placed like this. But if I want to move it 10 pixels from the bottom, what I can do, I can set position as relative, and I can do bottom as 10 pixel. Okay, so now you can see like, okay, let me do it 100 pixels so that the change, not 100, let's say 25 pixels. Okay, so you can see that it has moved. Okay, so this is like if you want to move the div, any element with respect to its initial static position, so you can use position relative. Absolute will place it with respect to its parent non-static element. And suppose I want to make this red div as relative, but at the same time I want this blue div to be placed at the edge of, at the corner of this page. So what I can do is that I can use the position as fixed. Okay, so with position fixed, what will happen is that just a second. Yeah, now you can see it has placed itself with respect to the body, even though the parent element, which was parent div, was relative. Okay, so that's the use of fixed. And the other one is sticky. So what I mean by sticky is that, let's say I give it 50 pixel, or yeah, 50 pixel, and this is a mixture of fixed as well as relative. So you can see that it's moving with respect to its initial position. And if I put in some text here, okay, so now what you can see is that okay, just a second, let me let me add to this, declare this position to this red div. Okay, so position is sticky. So it was creating some error because this red box was sticky, sorry, relative, and the blue one was sticky. So if I give the, like, suppose you are making a nav bar, like suppose this red box, the big box is nav bar, and here you have some text, let's say RM5. Okay, so okay, yeah, here you have the text. So if the position is sticky and I say the top as 10 pixel, and yeah, and left as, okay, let's leave that. So now as soon as I will scroll this, you can see if I remove this sticky position, you can see that this, as soon as I scroll down, the parent, the red div is going away. But if I set the position as sticky, so as soon as the top is becoming 10 pixels, so this white space between the top of the page and this red div is 10 pixel. As soon as it is becoming 10 pixel, it's stopping there and it's becoming a sticky element. Okay, so yeah, that's sticky. So those are the, like, we did static, absolute, relative, fixed, and sticky. So any questions so far?
Hypothetically, if we use static, sorry, not static, absolute, actually not absolute, fixed. We use fixed and we want to center a div like at the middle of the page. what would we do for that?
Okay, so if you are saying that if this red box is fixed and you want to place it centrally, so
Yeah.
you can do something like it will not be fully responsive, but like what I mean by responsive, like we will be discussing what responsive, how we can
Yeah,
make
like
responsive.
in general, for now, we will just have to define the pixels, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
okay.
Or
So
no,
that,
could you repeat your question?
Basically, I wanted to fix a div at the center of the screen responsively.
Okay, so I think Shivan should be showing it right now. And if he doesn't, let me explain to you. You would not use fix because what fix does is basically takes the element out of parent flow. So that's why you will use absolute property, and then you would use the top and left position, and then you would like the spacing, and then you would use transform translate minus 50% minus 50%. Shivansh, could you show that to them?
Okay, that's fine.
yeah, sure. So actually, it's much easier if you know Flexbox, so we can do it that way as well. But okay, I guess we can do this once we are done with that translate and transform, because as of now, I guess many of them don't know what translate and transform is. So maybe we can cover that in the next session. Like
Okay.
I will be showing that, and
Yeah, no issues.
now.
Also, did someone find it weird? Like, okay, I have a question for all of you. Why do you think we use sticky when we already have a fixed position? This is like a questionnaire, so like anyone can answer.
So is that if you were to use fixed, won't it when you like scroll the thing below, it won't go with the scrolling?
Then why won't we use sticky?
I mean, I guess it would work for the nav bars because after the heading, you don't want it to keep showing for the nav bars.
Okay, I'm showing you a hint. Like you look at the web page right now. Currently, it's sticky, and now I'm making it fixed. Now you can understand it this way.
You see what I talked about out of flow, right?
Yeah.
So could you see this from
Okay,
Shivansh's
got it.
example?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
got it.
basically, using fix takes it out of the element, takes it out of the flow of the body, and fixes it relative to the browser, not the browser, the viewport per se. So that's why you will use sticky if you want an element to appear for a certain while, and after that, if you want it to disappear. So like, there's a really good article on this, and it's also about like if you want something to stick throughout a certain segment and then you want it to disappear, then you would go for sticky and not for fixed. Because again, because it fixed takes it out of the flow, you cannot really do much with it. And it can also throw some weird errors in cases. So did everyone get that? Because I understand that out of flow or like all of those words are a little bit complex if you don't know. Okay, no doubt.
Yeah.
Shivansh, then proceed.
Yeah. So we have covered the position property. Now let's start with. Let me just comment this out. Okay. Let me create a new CSS file for this. Mm, okay. This is the problem with Okay, yeah. Comments. Okay, done. So let's have a div, two divs along with two span. Okay, and let's have some text in them. Okay. Okay, so for div, we can have height of 200 pixel, width of 200 pixel, and background color of maybe, yeah, and margin as well. Okay, so here we have the div. Now let's see the span. So we can have background color of yellow and margin of 20 pixels. Okay, let me resize this. Okay, so the biggest difference between these two, like, can you like if you know, like, I guess we discussed this, but just yeah. So the main difference between div, like these two divs and these spans. So the main difference is that the span is and like occupying this much space, and the second span is occupying this much space. So they are able to come in one line. So they are, but let's say we have this div, it's only occupying about 1/5 of the width of the page, and this can also accommodate in the first line, but it's not. So this is because div by default, like we had div right here, like these two are divs, and then we have span. So span are inline element by default, like we can make them block by defining, but by default they are inline, so they are coming in a single line, so the element only occupies the space which it needs, and then like it doesn't add a line break. But in case of the block elements, they occupy the space which they require, and after that they add a line break. So like you can see here, now if I turn this, change this div to inline as display inline, now you can see. Okay, now the problem with inline elements is that you cannot set their height and width, so I need to add some text to make it visible. Okay, so now you can see these two are the divs, like uh, the uh, the text with blue background is the div, and with the yellow one is the span. Now we can even make this span, which is by default block inline, as block. Just a second. Okay, so now it's a block element. So now you can see it's occupying the whole space. Like earlier it was only taking up this much space, but now it's taking up the whole space and then adding a line break. Okay, so that's that. And the other difference is that between inline and block is that in inline you cannot specify height and width. Like I wrote height as 200 pixel and width as 200 pixel, but you cannot see that because in inline you cannot specify the height and width. And also like if I make this block and if I add a margin of, let's say, 100 pixel. Now you can see that there is a margin of 100 pixel, right? Or the margin top and the margin bottom, both are 100 pixel. But as soon as I make them inline, you can see that the left and right margin is still there, but the top and bottom margin has gone. So in inline elements, you cannot define the height and width along with top and bottom margin. Okay, so but there are cases like if we do need to specify the height and width of few inline elements. So in that case, we will use inline block. So it has a mixed feature. It has a feature of inline as well as block. So from inline, the feature is that it occupies only the space it requires and doesn't add a line break. And the property from block is that with the margin. So now you can see that the top and bottom margin is also there. Inline and block, and why and when like now you know when to use inline block. Okay, so that's that, and yeah, I guess that's it for display. Now any question? Okay, I also wanted to show you something. Also, I wanted to tell you about this new extension. It's really cool. Like this side thing, like the live preview is not some like it's not a it's not browser, it's built in VS Code. So without saving as well, like now I as of now I'm not changing the text, but I'm just writing I am not saving the file. So without saving the file, you can see the changes, and that's because of this extension. You can download it. It's under development, but I guess there will not be much of an issue. Uh, its name is Live Preview, and it's by Microsoft. This one, yeah. So you can try it out. Like there is a warning, this extension is still under development, but I I haven't faced any issue as of now. So yeah, you can try it out. And okay, so yeah, the page is open. Now I just want to remove this display property, no display and this display, okay, and reduce the margin. Okay, so I guess you are familiar with the developer tool. So here you can see the CSS which is applied to the elements. So here you can see the actual content is only taking this much space, but you can see when you are hovering over it, it's actually showing that the element is taking the whole space. But if I make the display as inline, okay, now it's only showing this much. But now you can you may think that why this is not coming the same line. This is because this is still inline element. I wrote inline style inline CSS to this div, so that's why it's not been applied to that div. So if I do display as inline for this as well, so now all the elements on the web page are inline. So yeah, that's it. Any doubts? Guess not. Mm, okay. Also, like, yeah, I was all going to discuss what was that? Yeah, Z index. So Z index is basically if I make the first div. Okay, Z index only works on non-static elements as well as elements which are child of a flex of a parent with flex display property as flex. Okay, so what flex is, we will be covering that in the future sessions, but as of now you can just understand it that the z index will only work with non-static elements, like those who have display position as non-static. So if I declare its position as, let's say, absolute, top 0, left 50 pixels. Okay. And similarly I have the second div, but the left will be, let's say, 75 pixels, and let's change the background color to green. Okay, so okay, let's change this to 100 pixels. Okay, so you can see that here is the the green, like z index helps in stacking elements in the web page. Okay, so the green div is currently over the blue div, so you can change that by adding the z declaring the z index property as, let's say, -1. So now if you see, we didn't declare the z index property of this div, so it was by default 0. So but we did define the z index property of this green div, so that's it was -1, so it was less than 0, so that's why it's behind it. But let's say if I declare the z index property of the blue div as, let's say, -10, which is less than -1, it will be behind the green one. Okay, so that's basically z index. So yeah, I guess that's it for this session. Any doubts regarding z index? Okay, so I guess we can conclude the class. Gaurav is also left. If someone is in the meeting.
On there. Okay,
Oh,
so one thing, does everyone remember that issue that I was running into while using the visited pseudo selector, right? So basically, the problem is that there's some security related issues with that pseudo selector. That is why Google and some other browsers by default ignore it unless you specify. And yeah, then I think you shouldn't use it unless it's very important. And in case it is, then I'll suggest that you use JavaScript for that. And don't worry about JavaScript. We will be showing how to use JavaScript in the later classes. Okay. And yeah, I guess, Shivansh, do you want to assign them something? Like I gave them the print project. Do you have something to assign them?
I guess that challenge is more than enough. Like if they are able to solve that, quite good.
Okay. So I guess that's pretty much it. Now, we had shared a lot of links today, so it's recommended that you go through them. About that REM and EM one, do not bother much about it right now because you won't really understand it unless you make your own websites and run into troubles. Like, believe me, I've run into several while using EM and REM because it's a bit complicated at times. So either you could do that or like you could visit Kevin Powell's channel and you could check out what is the difference between the various um, units like them and PX and all of those. I guess that's pretty much it for today.
So I guess that's it. Do you have any doubts? related to anything like what we have taught or something out of context? Okay, great. So I guess we can end this session now. Let me stop the recording first.